We still sail through the depths of history, hoping that after this long and arduous journey, we may gather the scattered threads and arrange the fragmented pieces of the picture, allowing it to emerge with greater clarity.
Following the passing of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the Islamic State entered a phase known as the Rashidun Caliphate, which lasted for approximately 30 years. During this period, leadership was assumed by 4 caliphs in succession: Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, followed by Umar ibn al-Khattab, then Uthman ibn Affan, and finally Ali ibn Abi Talib. May Allah be pleased with them all. And after Ali ibn Abi Talib was assassinated by a Kharijite named Abd al-Rahman ibn Muljam, his son, al-Hasan ibn Ali, relinquished the caliphate in favor of Umayyad ibn Abi Sufyan. Thus, the Rashidun Caliphate came to an end in the year 662, giving rise to the second caliphate in Islamic history, the Umayyad Caliphate, or the rule of Banu Umayyah, the first hereditary dynasty. They established Damascus as the capital of their empire and ruled for nearly 88 years, beginning with Umayyad ibn Abi Sufyan, followed by Yazid ibn Muawiyah, then Muawiyah ibn Yazid, then Marwan ibn al-Hakam, then Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan.
During the reign of the 6th Umayyad Caliph, Al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik, the Muslim expansion continued to extend further, completing the subjugation of the Maghrib, the Sind region, and the lands beyond the Oxus River. It was also during his rule that the expansion of Al-Andalus took place under the command of Tariq ibn Ziyad in the year 711. At that time, Al-Andalus, or the Iberian Peninsula, was under the rule of the Visigoths, a Germanic tribe that had split from the Ostrogoths and engaged in numerous conflicts with the Roman Empire. They achieved a significant victory over the Romans at the Battle of Adrianople in the year 378, delivering one of the most devastating defeats in Roman history. After the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, the Visigoths settled in southern France and northern Spain, establishing the Kingdom of the Visigoths with Toulouse as their capital. Later, they moved their seat of power to Toledo and ruled vast territories across Western Europe, including the Iberian Peninsula, from the early 5th century. Initially, the Visigoths adhered to Arian Christianity, which allowed the Spanish Jewish community, one of the largest and most prosperous in the world at the time, to live under relative tolerance. They were permitted to practice their faith freely without significant persecution.
However, when the Visigoths converted to Catholic Christianity, during the reign of King Rekhard I, in the late 6th century, Jewish communities began to face mounting restrictions. A series of laws were enacted to curtail their rights, including prohibitions on interfaith marriages between Jews and Christians, barring Jews from holding government positions, and compelling them to attend Christian sermons. At the Third Council of Toledo in 589, a decree was issued mandating that Jews abandon their religious customs and embrace Christianity. Additional laws were later introduced criminalizing Jewish religious practices. Consequently, the persecution of Jews intensified, with measures such as exile, forced displacement, confiscation of property, and even torture imposed upon those who refused to renounce their faith. Some Jews converted to Christianity under duress, while others secretly maintained their religious traditions. But with the Muslim expansion into the Iberian Peninsula, during the reign of the Umayyad Caliph Al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik, and the subsequent defeat of the Visigoths, the situation of the Jewish community improved significantly compared to the previous era. The Muslim rulers adopted a more tolerant policy toward religious minorities, allowing Jews to live and practice their faith with greater freedom.
The Umayyads continued to govern a vast and sprawling empire, and after the death of Al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik, he was succeeded by Sulayman ibn Abd al-Malik, who died while stationed at Marj Dabik. Following him, Umar ibn Abd al-Aziz ascended to the throne, a ruler renowned for his asceticism and justice, often referred to as the fifth rightly guided caliph. Umar ibn Abd al-Aziz viewed the caliph as a servant to the people, and despite ruling for only 2 years, worked diligently to spread knowledge and establish justice. He dismissed oppressive governors, restored rights to those wronged, and ushered in an era of unprecedented prosperity. His governance was so just that, according to historical accounts, the collectors of zakat, charitable alms, struggled to find anyone in need. He famously declared, "Scatter wheat on the mountaintops so that no bird may say it went hungry in the land of the Muslims." After his passing, Yazid ibn Abd al-Malik assumed the caliphate, followed by Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik, under whose rule the Muslims advanced into southern France. However, following his death, the empire fell into turmoil, with 3 caliphs ascending the throne within a single year. Stability was only restored with the rise of the 14th and final Umayyad caliph, Marwan ibn Muhammad. The Umayyad era was not without its strife, turmoil, and uprisings. From the outset, opposition arose, notably from Al-Husayn ibn Ali, may Allah be pleased with them both, who rejected the rule of Yazid ibn Muawiyah, leading to the Battle of Karbala, where Al-Husayn was tragically martyred. Numerous revolts followed, including the uprising of the Tawabin, the rebellion of Al-Mukhtar, the insurrection led by Abdullah ibn al-Zubair, and the revolt of Abdurrahman ibn al-Ashadiyh. It is worth noting that Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, the Umayyad governor of Iraq, played a significant role in quelling these rebellions.
After the failure of those who advocated for the caliphate's legitimacy to remain within the lineage of Ali ibn Abi Talib, another faction emerged, asserting the right of the Abbasid family, the descendants of Al-Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, to rule. Consequently, the Umayyad state entered a period of intense unrest, fueled by multiple factors, among them the policy of discrimination between Arabs and non-Arabs, known as the Ma'ali system, which greatly exacerbated tensions. The Abbasids, under the leadership of Abu al-Abbas al-Safa, capitalized on widespread discontent and rallied support from various disgruntled factions. Abu Muslim al-Khurasani organized a formidable army and launched a campaign against the Umayyad governor, defeating him and declaring the establishment of the Abbasid state in Khorasan. In the year 750, the people of Kufa pledged allegiance to Abu al-Abbas as caliph. Soon after, the Abbasid and Umayyad armies clashed near the Zab River in northern Iraq, where the Abbasids emerged victorious. They pursued the fleeing Umayyads through the Levant and into Egypt, ultimately killing Marwan ibn Muhammad, the last Umayyad caliph. The meticulous planning, widespread public support, and military prowess of the Abbasid leadership were crucial in securing their triumph. By skillfully harnessing public resentment toward Umayyad policies, the Abbasids successfully positioned themselves as the rightful and preferable rulers of the Islamic State. Thus, after nearly 90 years in power, the Umayyad Caliphate came to an end, giving rise to the Abbasid Caliphate, which established Baghdad as the new capital of the Islamic Empire. The Abbasid rule endured for 5 centuries, spanning from the year 750 until 1258, when the Mongols invaded and devastated Baghdad.
Noting that after the fall of the Abbasid downfall in Baghdad, the Mamluks in Egypt pledged allegiance to Al-Mustansir Billah II, thereby extending the Abbasid Caliphate for an additional 2.5 centuries, until the year 1507. It was then that the Caliphate met its ultimate demise with the Ottoman conquest of Egypt, as the last Abbasid Caliph, Al-Mutawakkil III, abdicated in favor of Sultan Selim I. But let us return to the year 750, the year in which the Abbasids decisively defeated the Umayyads, pursuing them through the Levant and Egypt, seemingly erasing their presence altogether. Yet, the Umayyad legacy did not vanish entirely, as following their crushing defeat at the Battle of the Zab and the assassination of the last Umayyad Caliph, Marwan ibn Muhammad, the Abbasids launched a relentless purge aimed at annihilating every member of the Umayyad dynasty. However, one Umayyad prince, Abu al-Mutraf Abdurrahman, better known as Abdurrahman al-Dakhil, the Entrant, and famously dubbed the Falcon of Quraysh, a direct descendant of the Umayyad Caliph Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik. He managed to elude the Abbasids and embarked on a perilous journey, traversing both Arab and Berber tribes in search of refuge and support. And after 6 arduous years, he crossed into Al-Andalus, which had by then severed its ties with the Umayyad state, after Yusuf al-Fihri had seized the opportunity presented by the Umayyad defeat at the Zab, declaring himself the independent ruler of the region. Upon his arrival in Al-Andalus, Abdurrahman found allies among the Yemeni tribes. Thanks to his commanding presence and extraordinary leadership skills, he succeeded in rallying his supporters and vanquishing al-Fihri's forces at the Battle of Al-Muzara. Entering Cordoba in triumph, he proclaimed himself the ruler of Al-Andalus.
Thus, Abdurrahman al-Dakhil laid the foundations of a formidable emirate known as the Second Umayyad State. Determined to consolidate his power, he swiftly built a strong military and an efficient administrative system. His reign was marked by sweeping reforms, fostering trade with neighboring states, strengthening the economy, and ensuring financial stability for his emirate. Beyond governance, Abdurrahman championed education and culture, ushering in a flourishing era of science, art, and literature. Despite his success in establishing an independent state, he was not free from external threats. He had to fend off Abbasid attempts to reclaim Al-Andalus, while also resisting incursions from the Christian kingdoms in the north. Yet, he resolutely defended his domain, and his successors continued to fortify, expand, and enrich their state despite mounting external and internal challenges for nearly 3 centuries until the year 1033, to remain etched in the annals of history as one of the most significant eras of cultural and scientific flourishing. The policy of religious and cultural tolerance implemented by the Umayyads in Al-Andalus played a pivotal role in attracting scholars and intellectuals from diverse backgrounds, so the emirate witnessed remarkable advancements in medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy.
Under Muslim rule in Al-Andalus, Jews were recognized as dhimmis, is an Islamic legal term referring to non-Muslims, primarily Jews and Christians, who live under Muslim rule and were granted protected status in exchange for paying a special tax called jizya, or a protected religious minority granted extensive religious freedoms. They were permitted to practice their faith, construct synagogues, and govern their own religious and communal affairs. The Jews benefited from the flourishing cultural and scientific climate of Al-Andalus, and their scholars engaged in fruitful exchanges with Muslim and Christian intellectuals, which significantly enriched Jewish thought and scholarship. Excelling in commerce, industry, agriculture, and the sciences, they became integral to the Andalusian economy. Some even rose to prominent positions in the state, serving as advisors, ministers, and physicians, thereby leaving an indelible mark on the cultural and economic landscape of Al-Andalus. Therefore, several Jewish scholars and philosophers emerged during this period, among the most prominent being Moses ibn Maimon, known in the West as Maimonides, a brilliant philosopher and physician. This period, often referred to as the Golden Age of Jewish culture, saw unprecedented advancements in Jewish philosophy, science, and literature. It was an age marked by harmonious coexistence among Muslims, Christians, and Jews, who collectively contributed to the grandeur of Andalusian civilization.
Throughout the rule of Abd al-Rahman I and his 7 successors, Al-Andalus remained an emirate. However, in 912, the 8th ruler Abd al-Rahman III proclaimed himself caliph, assuming the title al-Nasir li din Allah, thus transforming Al-Andalus from an emirate into a caliphate. This declaration symbolized complete political independence and reaffirmed the sovereignty of the Umayyad state in Al-Andalus. Following the establishment of the Caliphate, Al-Andalus experienced an era of unprecedented prosperity under Abd al-Rahman III, who commissioned the construction of grand mosques, schools, and hospitals. He actively promoted the translation of scholarly works from other cultures, igniting a remarkable intellectual and scientific renaissance. Cordoba, under his rule, emerged as one of the most magnificent cities in the Islamic world and a global center of learning and culture. Its libraries house thousands of manuscripts across a vast array of disciplines, attracting scholars and philosophers from across the Muslim world. Advances in medicine, astronomy, and mathematics flourished, while the arts and architecture reached new heights, leaving behind a legacy of breathtaking palaces, gardens, and structures, many of which still stand today. After the death of Abd al-Rahman III in 961, his son, Al-Hakam II al-Mustansir Billah, ascended to the throne. However, internal conflicts and power struggles, coupled with mounting external pressures, gradually undermined the stability of the state. The Umayyad Caliphate in Al-Andalus began its slow decline, culminating in its disintegration in 1033 following the flight of the last Umayyad Caliph in Al-Andalus, Hisham III al-Mutabillah, in the wake of the Cordoban uprising.
With the collapse of the Umayyad Caliphate, the golden era of power and prosperity that Al-Andalus had experienced under Umayyad rule came to an end. Minister Abu al-Hazm ibn Jawar formally declared the dissolution of the Umayyad state, paving the way for local rulers to establish their own independent principalities. These included the Banu Jawar, Banu Aftas, Banu Abad, Banu Aghlab, Banu Ahmar, and others who seized the opportunity to advance their own interests amid the prevailing chaos. This fragmentation led to the weakening of central authority and the erosion of control over the provinces. Al-Andalus descended into widespread social unrest, exacerbated by tensions among its diverse populations: Arabs, Berbers, Christians, and Jews. The internal situation grew increasingly complex, political instability deepened, and economic conditions deteriorated. As a result, the unity of Al-Andalus crumbled, giving way to numerous small, independent kingdoms that lacked the cohesion needed to collectively resist external threats. These fractured states became known as the Taifas kingdoms, numbering over 20, including Seville, Granada, Cordoba, Badajoz, and Zaragoza, among others. Around this period, or slightly earlier, the concept of the Reconquista emerged among the Christian kingdoms of Europe, accompanied by fervent calls to reclaim the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim rule.
Although some historians have questioned whether the concept of the Reconquista was truly the driving force behind the wars that ultimately led to the fall of Al-Andalus, arguing instead that expansionist political ambitions were the primary motive, the outcome remained the same. Others believe that the process of reconquest began much earlier, specifically in the year 718, when a small Christian force led by Pelagius defeated an Umayyad army commanded by Ibn Alqamah al-Lakhmi at the Battle of Covadonga. This victory laid the foundation for the Kingdom of Asturias, the first Christian entity to emerge after the fall of the Visigothic kingdom, following the Muslim expansion of the Iberian Peninsula. The advance of the Muslim forces was later halted by Charles Martel, who defeated the army of Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi at the Battle of Tours in the year 732. Subsequently, several Christian kingdoms were established, including the Kingdom of Castile, the Kingdom of Aragon, and the Kingdom of Leon. Meanwhile, European states were uniting against the Islamic world, launching a series of military campaigns in the east known as the Crusades.
At the same time, Christian kingdoms in northern Al-Andalus sought to consolidate their power. Castile and Leon merged under the rule of Alfonso VI, who exploited the fragmentation of Al-Andalus by launching military campaigns against the Taifas kingdoms, which were weakened by internal strife and ruled by feeble, self-serving monarchs. Some of these rulers even paid tribute to Alfonso VI and enlisted his support against their rivals. As external threats mounted, certain Taifas kings sought to unite against the looming danger. Scholars and advisors proposed seeking assistance from the Almoravid dynasty, an Islamic power that had emerged in North Africa as a religious reformist movement in the Sahara under the leadership of Abdullah ibn Yassin. After his death, Yusuf ibn Tashfin took command, successfully unifying the Berber tribes under Almoravid rule and establishing a formidable state in the Maghreb. However, some Taifas rulers hesitated to invite the Almoravids, fearing that if they emerged victorious against the Christian kingdoms, they would annex Al-Andalus into their own dominion. In response to this dilemma, the ruler of Seville, Al-Mu'tamid ibn Abbad, famously declared, "Better to herd camels in Morocco than to herd pigs in Europe." Thus, Al-Andalus stood at the threshold of a new and thrilling chapter in the grand narrative of history.